Hello, it's me again. A lot of people, since I have been putting some of the videos on, have been sending me personal messages asking me about my diagnosis and how it was discovered, and just people in general that have been worried about them on their own selves. So I wanted to do a quick little video to tell you my story, and I hope it helps answer some of your questions. So let's see where to begin. Probably about September 29th, 2005. I was 34 years old. I was 4 years into my second marriage with my husband Breeze, and my kids were 12 and 14 years old. I had just started a brand new job that I absolutely loved, and I was going about life fine, healthy. I never had any problems that I thought were major. One day I woke up. I was having some symptoms. I had gained weight. I was having some low back pains, things like that, but nothing that would alert a major problem. But one day I woke up and I had a real slight pain, kind of like in my rib cage area, and it was enough that every time I would breathe I would feel it. And the week that I decided to go to the doctor, I was just feeling so wore out and drained and tired, and my back was killing me. So I went to the Watson Clinic. There's a walk-in clinic there, and just thinking maybe I had appendicitis or just anything like that. I wasn't quite sure. So I went to the doctor, and he gave me an exam, and he told me that he wanted me, Dr. Shaw at the Watson Clinic said, well, why don't we just go ahead and have a CAT scan? So, I'm like, okay, fine, whatever we need to do. And so I had a CAT scan, and as I was leaving the CAT scan, the technician told me to please make sure that I waited for the doctor. So I waited around for the doctor, and he calls me back, and I was alone because I thought it was just something simple, And he calls me back there, and he says, Miss Coleman, it's not good. And I was like, well, what do you mean it's not good? What? And he says that the CAT scan showed a very large abdominal mass that has appeared to have spread. So when he told me that, I was like, oh my God. And I was like, no, my mom, she had fibroids. It's probably something like that, benign. She had female problems. And he says, no, I'm sorry. He says that it's spread, and it's an obvious tumor within your abdominal cavity. And he had already made an appointment. He told me that I've already made you an appointment for the oncologist for the next morning. So I got my bearings, and I walked out to the car, and I remember crying hysterically all the way to my parents' house, which was about 10 minutes away, and I honestly don't know how I made it. But I did, and I told my mom and dad what had happened, and everybody was just in pure shock because I was so healthy. I was young. I was 34. Never had any health problems in my life. So it was just so overwhelming. And to explain my feelings and what I was thinking at that time, it was just pure shock because I didn't know, what does this mean? Does it mean I'm going to die tomorrow? Do I have a month? Do I have 6 months? What about my children, my husband? It was just pure hysteria. It was horrible. So went to the doctor the next day, and he gave me an exam and told me that I needed to have surgery that very next week. So that was the toughest, most agonizing week I've ever had in my whole entire life, waiting for them to open me up and get this monster out of my body that I was carrying, and to let me know what my future holds, what's the rest of my life, how bad is it. So we had the surgery and woke up and to the most excruciating pain I've ever had. The surgeon cut me from my breastbone all the way down around my belly button to my pelvis. They removed approximately 10-pound sized tumor that was wrapped around my colon. So they removed a section of my colon. They removed my appendix. They removed my spleen. The cancer had seeded up into my spleen, and he had to slice a section of my spleen off. But the good news for my first surgery was that the doctor was able to remove all of the cancer that he could visibly see. So I recovered from surgery and went directly on chemotherapy. Went through 6 months of chemotherapy. I also worked during this time. I just felt it was important for me to try to continue my everyday life because I knew I was going to get better, and no matter how hard it was for me to get up and go to work every day, it was very important for me to maintain that same lifestyle so that when I was better, which I knew that I would be able to continue my life that I left off, that I love so much. 6 months after I finished my final chemotherapy, I had a second look surgery. I was told that it was negative and that I was still in remission and that the chemo had worked. A week later, I had emergency surgery. I had a bowel perforation from that second look surgery, and I had to have a week of antibiotics. I had to have another surgery so they can go back in, remove another piece of my bowel to close that hole. And during that time, the doctor, the day I was going home, the doctor come in and told me that the slides from that second surgery showed cancer cells again, and that I was going to have to go back on chemotherapy. So I remember the hardest thing I ever had to do was to tell my mother that what we thought was over, we were now going to have to start all over again. So I went through another 6 months of chemotherapy. Except instead of once a month, I was going every week. It was violent. I vomited every single weekend for 6 months straight, you know. Went through all my treatments, had a CAT scan, PET scan, everything was negative. So the doctor told me that I could come off chemotherapy, I'd be monitored very closely, and enjoy life. I went through 2.5 years of remission, and I have been enjoying life to the utmost. 2.5 years later, just recently, we noticed that my blood work, which indicates cancer returning, was elevating, so that we had another CAT scan. He discovered that cancer was growing in 3 different places. My colon, my spleen, and in my pelvic area. So had another surgery just recently, and as you can see, my blogs have picked up where I left off, and that's it. I can finish the story later.